Well, hey there. I just want to tell you about two record stores that I visited in West Palm Beach over the weekend.
Giant Orange Records.
The first one I had not been to in probably over 2 years because my local record store, Sounds Good, has been so awesome lately. First one I want to tell you about is called Rust and Wax. They're a pretty well-established record store, and they moved into a bigger location earlier in 2024. This was my first time visiting the new location, and I was pretty impressed. And I also visited a new record store that was in kind of a strange part of town. I'll tell you about the specific reason that I went there, what they did right, what they did wrong, if anything, and what was my biggest surprise. So first, I want to talk about Rust and Wax, and I want to show you some awesome records that I got there. This is the Easy Beats. The record is called Friday on My Mind. I've never seen this record before. When I was about 14, learning to play guitar, my guitar instructor showed me this song, Friday on My Mind, which is not particularly easy to play on the guitar. There's one measure that has 4 chords in one measure. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4 that has 4 different chords in that time. It's right before the chorus. It's a 1967 US pressing. On the hype story on the back, they basically call them the Beatles of Australia. And it's kind of easy to see why. Friday on My Mind's great song starts it off. And me and my son listen to that song in the car every Friday. The whole album's pretty solid. They do one cover of River Deep Mountain High, which is not an easy song to cover. I can say that because I once was in a band that covered it, and it took us a little while to learn how to do it right. But if you find this one, if you like psychedelic garage nuggets, I'd say there's not a bad track on this album. It kind of goes by in a breeze. Most of the songs are about 2-3 minutes long. Easy Beats rhythm guitarist George Young was also the older brother of Malcolm and Angus Young of AC/DC fame. And George also produced some of the early AC/DC albums. And here is a reissue of the Rolling Stones' big hits, High Tide and Green Grass. This is a mono UK type pressing, and it's on this like funky green colored wax. What's so jarring about this is here's my older US pressing from the 60s, which has what I call fake stereo. It's electronically rechanneled stereo. I really want to get a mono copy of this one because the booklet that comes with it is really awesome. This is a 2019 Record Store Day reissue. Mono sounds great, but this pressing is almost half the volume of the original US 60s one. I don't know, the cover art is jarringly different. It's like shockingly quiet, and it has a totally different running order. For the most part, it has the same songs, but this one starts off with Have You Seen Your Mother, Baby, Standing in the Shadow, whereas this one starts off with Satisfaction and The Last Time. Like the US one's just bang, bang, bang. It's a loud cut pressing. This one just seems a little bit tamer. I mean, I love the song Have You Seen Your Mother, Baby, Standing in the Shadows, but maybe you want to listen to a Rolling Stones comp. Maybe I want to hear Satisfaction and The Last Time first to really get the ball rolling. But side 2 does start off with Satisfaction. And I think we get Little Red Rooster on here, which I don't think is on the US copy. I'll say it's a totally different experience. And here is one that I was happy to find, also at Rust and Wax in the New Arrivals bin. This is Clear Light. They were a Los Angeles band on Elektra, 1968. They had 2 drummers, which is pretty unusual for the time. I'd say it sounds kind of like a mix between the Doors and the Byrds and early Moby Grape. This is the 2002 reissue from Sundazed, which is an incredible reissue label for garage, psych, and surf music. Cool album. I'm still kind of getting my head around this one, but it's definitely got kind of like a psych folk thing going on. Very like heady 60s music. And here is an early pressing of the Doors debut with the gold label. It's a 1967 US pressing. Let me put on my super good light. Yeah, it looks like there's a big T a big T stamped on there, so that probably is the Terry hot pressing. This one is probably in like VG plus condition. I recently bought what I believe is a Monarch pressing, but gosh, that one's hard to look up, from a friend of mine who was selling some records on Facebook. This one's definitely in better condition, and it's cut about as hot as the other one. Here's the Ventures surfing album. Not all their albums are very surf rock, and I'll show you another one later that is not as surfy as this one. But here's some dude riding a surfboard. I don't think it's the guy on the cover. They interview Ilma Kalama on the back. He's a Hawaiian surfer. This came in plastic shrink. How many old albums from the 60s do you ever see that are in plastic shrink? I'd say this one's pretty solid. They do their version of Pipeline. One difference between their version of Pipeline and the original is the guitar. They have a second guitar kind of covering the electric piano parts on the original Shantae's version. Really enjoy this one, and again, as you may know if you watched this channel for a minute, that I'm trying to collect all the Ventures albums, and this one was one that was sorely missing from my collection on the Dalton label. And this one, this record belonged to Richard O. Sanford of 1615 Arlington Drive, West Palm Beach, FLA. Richard, if you're looking for your record, I'm probably not going to ship it to you, but perhaps I could. And I love how they describe the surfing life on here. Surfing is more than just a sport, it's a fever. The surf fever is sweeping the country, and teenagers everywhere are succumbing to the surfing way of life. Surfing has become a state of mind, a wild, uninhibited existence that revolves around the sun, the surf, and the sand. The first time you stand on a surfboard, you'll know why surfing is here to stay, why it's wild, popular activity that without question is the world's fastest growing sport. They surf around the world in Australia, France, Hawaii, New Zealand, Mexico, Peru, South Africa, on all coasts of the United States, and almost any other spot that borders a large body of water. Here's a Los Angeles punk band, X, Under the Big Black Sun. I believe this is their second album. It was also produced by Ray Manzarek. We got kind of a theme here, huh? Electra bands that were from Los Angeles. And of course, Ray Manzarek of The Doors produced this one and X's first one. I mean, these songs are kind of long for punk songs. They're about 3 minutes, 45 seconds, 3 minutes, 40 seconds. They're all a little bit longer, a little bit more complicated. I haven't listened to this one in quite a few years. I think I used to have it on my iPod back when, we all had iPods. And could I have a drum roll, please? Here is the reason that I went down to Rust and Wax in the first place, because why would you drive an hour out of the way to go to a record store? Here it is, Parlor Greens, In Green We Dream, on this yellow splatter. Now at Rust and Wax, they had a wall full of these, like a wall dedicated to this. Coal Mine Records released. They're a great record company and record store, releasing a lot of funk. It's sort of like 60s and 70s sounding funk. Think like James Brown and Stax Records, Booker T and the MGs, a lot of instrumental stuff, but this features Tim Carman, Jimmy James, and Adam Scone. It's guitar, keyboards, and drums. And Rust and Wax made this exclusive opaque yellow with black swirl vinyl. Again, I guess it was released through Coal Mine, but this particular edition was made just for the Rust and Wax record store in West Palm Beach. I would highly recommend this album. It just came out in the summer of 2024. I guess maybe June or July. It's July now when we're filming this. The end of July. Coal Mine is really a great record label. I love their hype stickers. Their hype stickers will tell you gritty organ jazz from Coal Mine Supergroup. That's all you really need to know. Like, sometimes colored vinyl really is a beautiful thing, and I think they did a great job with this, and I was happy to drive an hour out of my way to go to Rust and Wax, because Now I want to tell you what they do right. They sell clean used records. I mean, all of these used records that I got are in incredible condition. I'd say they're all VG plus, probably, or at least, at the very least, VG, but they're mostly VG plus or near mint. And that is what all record stores should strive for. Another positive is they have a huge selection of genres, fair prices. I mean, of course, records are more expensive than they used to be, but that's just the marketplace dictating that. I think Rust and Wax has really fair prices on their used and new records. You know, some records just cost more than others. They have a very clean restroom, which is important because, like, I'm the kind of person that will spend hours at a record store, or at least 1 hour, if not hour and a half, 2 hours. It's about 2 hours plus. It's time to probably get out of there because you're going to be broke if you stay there that long. So I'd say the only thing Rust and Wax did wrong, and this isn't really a dig on them or anything, it's that they had so many records that I wasn't able to buy everything that I wanted. I mean, it's kind of like being a kid in a candy store in that place. There are about 5 or 6 records that I'm like, well, I hope they're there next time, or I'll have to think about it. So who knows? I may be back for a visit soon. If, you know, my other bills and whatever don't get in the way of that, which they do sometimes. And my biggest surprise at Rust and Wax was running into a friend from my neck of the woods down there, and it was cool to catch up with him. I see that friend at the record store here in Port St. Lucie, Fort Pierce area a lot, but it's cool to bump into a friend in West Palm Beach. So after being at Rust and Wax for a little while, decided to trek up to Soulmates Records, which is also in West Palm Beach. It's in a little kind of strange part of town, but whatever. Like, there's a lot of like automotive repair shops, and it's kind of hard to get to. I'd say, like, yeah, but it's cool. It's off the beaten path. So I'm going to start off with a couple 45s that I found, or more than a couple handfuls. This is Susie and the Banshees. I love this band, like new wave punk band. English, late 70s. This is probably their most famous songs, Hong Kong Garden. Groovy little tune. And yeah, it sounds great at 45 RPM. Here's the Beatles' Day Tripper. Probably already had this one, Day Tripper, and We Can Work It Out. These 45s have a lot of punch. And this is one of the Beatles' great non-album singles. This would have probably been coming out about the time Rubber Soul came out in late 1965. The Beatles 45s, they really have a whole lot of punch. And so do the Rolling Stones 45s. This is As Tears Go By and Gotta Get Away. These were from the LP December's Children. Again, what's cool about these 45s is they can be pretty beat up and still play pretty well. Another Rolling Stones 45, 19th Nervous Breakdown with Sad Day. Love the middle 60s Rolling Stones stuff. And then here is a picture sleeve of Donovan's Mellow Yellow Man. I love the artwork on this. I've never seen this before. So I couldn't pass that up from Soulmates Music. Sunny South Kensington. That's a great Donovan track too. Lots of harpsichords and keyboards and pianos. And so this one was a cool find there. Francois Hardy, the Yee Yee girl from Paris. Yee Yee from Paris. This copy is on Four Corners Records. And yeah, I mean, but I was kind of surprised at like how much sort of like rockabilly there is on this record. There's a lot of surf, and, you know, kind of have some surfy sounds, and it's not just like mod French yee yee. And there's a lot of diversity, and gosh, and, you know, R.I.P. to Francois Hardy. Safe travels. She just passed away recently in the summer of 2024. This is only the second time I've ever seen a Francois Hardy album in my 20 years or so of going to record stores. So 25 years, I think. Anyway, this one's really good. It's a little scratchy, but the record store owner warned me about that, and I was pretty happy to be warned about that. So I will say, here's my biggest surprise from Soulmates Music, is that the record clerk, who's probably also the store owner, the place is pretty small, he asked if I'd saw the major scratch on the LP that I was going to purchase, and recommended that I take it over to their listening station and see if it would pass the test, and for this price it definitely did. Then, gosh, I love jazz. Jimmy Smith is one of my favorite organ players. This album, Rockin' the Boat, is really good. Got groovy organ guitars, and I've had this on CD for a pretty long time. Couldn't tell you where the CD is now, but it's on Blue Note. Looks like somebody put this in a record cleaner, maybe, and kind of took some of the color off of the label, but oh well. The grooves sound good. The music is there. Love this album. Here's the debut album from Johnny Cash, the fabulous Johnny Cash. Now, this guy tells a lot of stories on here. It's the 6 Eye Columbia label. Just really good stuff. I Still Miss Someone, Don't Take Your Guns Into Town. Those are probably the biggest hits on this one, but it's all good. And man, this album goes by in a flash. It's so short, and again, it's from 1959. Here they put VG on there. Again, thank you for doing that. And this record plays fine. I love it, but just look at him. He's the man in black, being the man in black with his guitar, with his name on the fretboard. And here's another big surprise. This may surprise you, is I don't have any Cramps records in my collection, or I didn't until I went to Soulmates Music. This one is Stay Sick, which features guitarist Poison Ivy on here. It looks like they had to put the album title here because it doesn't look like she's wearing much of a shirt, which you can kind of let your imagination run wild with that one. Came with the original shrink. This album was actually unopened, and I meant to look up the pressing on this one. This is on Big Beat Records. It says it's from 1989/1990. I don't know that I made it all the way through this one when I spun it after getting back, but I don't know. It's probably not the best Cramps album of all time, but it is a Cramps album, and they are consistent, and they pretty much, kept garage and surf and kind of garage horror type music in the consciousness. And it's a little kitschy, but of course, Lux Interior. It's Lux Interior, and Poison Ivy is Poison Ivy. What can I say? So I finally got my first Cramps record, which is cool. And boy, this was another kind of surprise there from Soulmates. Manitas de Plata. This is a Spanish flamenco guitarist. Dude, that guy can play. That's what I'll say. If you haven't heard Manitas de Plata and you like flamenco guitar, Spanish guitar, you should put this on, or it should be put on every once in a while. This looks like I don't know what year this one was from, but from looking at the back cover, it looks like a pretty old pressing. See, this is volume 2 of Manitas de Plata on Connoisseur Society. 1966. Now, this was a record an artist that my dad told me about. He saw him play live, and he pretty much said it was one of the best music performances he'd ever seen in his entire life. So that really means something. Manitas de Plata. Because I couldn't just find one Ventures record in a day. Here's Hawaii Five-0. Pretty decent. This one's from the late 60s, probably like 1969. Of course, everybody knows the theme song. Sometimes I forget that that was actually the Ventures. And at this point, the Ventures lineup is Jerry McGee, Mel Taylor, Bob Bogle, Don Wilson. They had a little bit of a lineup change at that point. This one's on Liberty Records. Yeah, cool record. It's in pretty good shape. Glad to have it. They cover Aquarius, Let the Sun Shine, Spooky, which isn't all that spooky. It's kind of spooky just in the title. They do The Letter, I Can Hear Music. The Letter was the Box Tops. I Can Hear Music was a Beach Boys song. Games People Play from Joe South. And Galveston, which was a Jimmy Webb song that was a big hit for Glenn Campbell. So again, we get a kind of like a taste of 1969 here. So yeah, what's the scoop on Soulmates music? The good, the bad, the ugly. There's not really any ugly. So what they do right is it's a very organized record store with dividers that are clearly labeled. Makes it easy to flip through the classic rock section. So that's labeled by band and artist in alphabetical order. And then there's just if you don't see any artists that you're looking for, any of the bigger name artists, the end of that letter has all the other artists. Again, it makes it really easy to flip through the entire shop pretty quickly and easily. And has really good selection and fair prices. I mean, everybody loves that, right? Especially nowadays when records are getting really expensive. I'll say it's a pretty small shop. The AC was kind of struggling to keep up, but it is July in South Florida, so what do you expect? My AC at home is struggling to keep up, and I may need to replace it soon, so I may not be buying so many records. I may be selling more than I buy, which is going to be hard to do, but my home AC is on its last legs. Anyway, that's my problem. Yeah, so like the location is in a strange part of town. The AC's kind of makes it a little toasty in there, so that'll keep the crowds away. So I kind of see that as a plus. And it's not so hot that the records are going to melt or anything like that. And yeah, and again, the big surprise is that the clerk told me to go listen to the Francois Hardy record, and it does kind of click.
Giant, orange, giant, orange, giant, orange, giant, orange.